Once again, we're back. We've got another Audi. I know it seems like it's been Audi marathon lately, but Falcon Motor Group here in Orlando provided me this Audi RS6, and I've been looking for one for quite a while. And if you know anything about Audi RS6s, you know that they're basically sold out no matter where you look, or you got a custom order one. So this one came in Nardo Gray, and I had to review it. I am a big fan of the RS6. I'm so happy that Audi finally decided to bring one to the American market yet again. Before we get started with this review, please like, share, and subscribe if an Audi RS6 is one of the coolest cars you could buy on the market right now. Thank you for watching. So what are we looking at here? Well, it's really not that much different than an RS7, for example. 4-liter twin-turbo V8 ZF 8-speed transmission, 600 horsepower. There is a performance version hitting dealerships as we speak right now that's got a little bit more power. This one's still plenty fast, and looks-wise, oh my God. I mean, we are in like this SUV craze, this super SUV craze, and you've got a car that's worth about $110,000 that looks, in my opinion, better than any super SUV you could throw at me. Urus, I don't care. RSQ8, good looking car, but not as cool looking as this. Look at that squat. Look at that rear stance over there. That is absolutely badass, okay? And I don't use a generic term like that very often, but that just looks so cool. This car sits so low, and there's a reason why it sits so low, because in typical Audi Avant fashion, air suspension. I mean, it's probably only a matter of time, just like past Audi Avants, where somebody's just gonna hack the air suspension and just like drop it to the ground. But it looks so good. I can't stop looking at this car. Absolutely love, love, love the exterior. Yet again, quintessential right here, this belt line, flat Audi belt line over here, all the way from the A, B, C, D pillar. So this car's got a bit of a few options. It's got the carbon fiber accent pack. You've got carbon fiber side sills over here, carbon fiber mirror caps, and I'll roll over some B footage of that as I talk about them. Let's take a look at these brakes. Massive, massive pizza pies. I mean, carbon ceramic brakes, and they're pretty quiet. I've driven the car obviously to this location thus far. They've been pretty quiet. I haven't had a problem with them yet. One of my favorite aspects of the car, and I've got to give Audi a lot of credit, is even though they've made some rather large grills, they don't seem too out of place. And I've had a handful of Audis over the past, 14 years. I've had more than a fair share, okay? And this car looks really, really nice. What I don't like though is this is a fake vent. It's got a little carbon fiber thing over here, but it's unlike the e-tron I just did recently. This vent's fake. It does nothing. There's no functionality. If anything, this probably hinders aerodynamics and probably gives you 0.1 mpg less, so whatever. But it's a cool little touch. I just wish it was functional. Front rubbers over here are 285s. That's really wide. I mean, you've got SUVs that don't have front tires this wide. And that's a square setup, so they're 285s in the rear as well. Obviously, this being Quattro, they have to be square for the most part. I love this. This rear end is so cool. It's so wide. If you look at it from this 3/4 angle, come take a look over here. You could see this rear 3/4 panel flare out and kind of go back in right over here. This really, really accentuates the width of this car, and I love that. On top of that, you've got more carbon fiber trims over here. You don't have an insane diffuser like you would on an e-tron, for example, but giant oval exhaust tips. I mean, I don't want to get my hand in there because they are hot, but as you could tell, they're huge. Now let's take a look at the trunk. I know this might be boring for some, but this being an Avant station wagon, that's a huge trunk. You could probably spend a night or two in there and be pretty comfortable on a long road trip because these seats fold back using these switches back here. And this is my little camera bag. And as you can see, it basically disappears in here. I could just climb it in. Just be careful with the body work. So, it's a big trunk. And now, let's take a look at the interior. Soft close, yes. inside the Audi RS6, and just like most Audis I've been reviewing, most recently the RS8, this is the same exact interior. It's identical. I don't think I'm going to go into too much detail here. I'll just quickly scroll through some of the options. You've got your radio, media, phone, nav. This is your home display. Phone apps, vehicle settings, favorites, some other settings. Then you have your configurable display as the first page on the top screen. You've got your HVAC over here, and just as a reminder, you can do this and you can do this, so you don't have to tap 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 all the time. This screen can either function as a touch screen, kind of like an iPad, or you can press into the screen by kind of jabbing it basically with your finger, and you'll feel a little haptic feedback every time the screen clicks. That's really about all there is to it. Here's some additional functions. You've got your parking settings over here. You've got an additional menu that'll display multiple different angles, or you can just go full 3D and do this. This is really, really cool. I do like this feature quite a lot. And then over here, you've got a configurable screen that you could scroll through using these buttons over here, where you can go left and right as such. And this being the RS mode, think of this as like your M button, where everything goes into a super sporty display. It's kind of a funny display because you've got an RPM tag on both sides. I don't get that. I feel like they kind of needed to fill up some space. Nonetheless, it's an interesting little display, and of course power and torque readouts as well on top of boost. And then you've got your oil temp down there, and I do not have tire pressure readings just yet because I haven't moved the car in a little bit. But yes, that is your basic functionality of this interior. It is very pretty in here, as you would expect from any Audi interior these days. You've got carbon fiber all the way around here. This has the extended leather, so it's got leather all around. Some more carbon fiber trim over here. Red stitching. Let's check out the back seat. This is, after all, a station wagon, so it should be pretty comfortable in here. So in the back seat, I've configured this seat over here to sit behind myself. I've got plenty of leg room. I have a lot of headroom, way more than the Audi e-tron that I did just the other day. Again, because we are in a station wagon, the roofline is very high. And as you can see, this seat right here is reclined, and it's rolled quite a bit more than this one. Again, this is for driving. This is, some people might sit like this, but regardless, still have a pretty decent amount of leg room, as I do over here. You've got carbon fiber that extends to the back seat as well. The same stitching applies here. The same pattern applies here. You've got climate control as well. And you've got a pair of USB ports underneath here. And that's really all there is to it in the interior of this car. And no, this doesn't have an entire panoramic roof. As you can see, there's the bar right here that separates this glass panel and that glass panel. All right, we are in the RS6 now, and again, very excited. I've been really wanting to drive this car for quite a long time. And right now, here we have a little place all to ourselves. And first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see how this car accelerates. Not bad, not bad. I think a lot of people underestimate just how cool station wagons are. It's just, saying that out loud makes me feel like I was a youth in the 1980s, but really I'm not. I was born in the 1980s. I never really cared for station wagons, even though my family did have one or two here and there. But a practical one that's this quick, I think it's just so cool. And now people are finally catching up to the idea of a very fast station wagon. And the marketing people at Audi, if they've even heard of this channel, are probably hating me for calling this a station wagon because they want to call it an Avant. So we're gonna go over some rough terrain over here in my usual stomping grounds and the testing grounds, the proving grounds, whatever you want to call this area. If If you've watched any of my videos, you know this is where I normally am. And I'm in dynamic mode. And in dynamic, thus far, it is a little bit rough. All right, we're gonna have our first turn into the rumble strip test. Here we go. Not bad. I feel the weight of the car. It does lean. And we're gonna hit these rumble strips at about 30, 32. Firm. Let's quickly switch the drive select into comfort. And once again, 32. Better. Noticeably better. It's interesting because I feel like I'm driving any ordinary Audi. This has the optional quote-unquote sport exhaust, but it's not that loud. So I just roll down the windows on this car just to hear the exhaust, because I really can't tell what this car sounds like in here. It's a lot like the Audi RS6, where it's pretty subdued. And I'm not really sure why Audi would do such a thing, because, you know, they're billing this as a performance car and it's got performance cred, but it's not exactly what I expected. This is truly a GT car with a lot of power. That's the best way to look at it. And by GT, I don't mean two-door, you know, Grand Touring or anything like that. I genuinely mean this car is meant for the long haul. Let's go. Here we go. We're going to take a little 90-degree bend, and it's got potential, but an M5 fighter this isn't. I'd imagine the RS7 handles better because it's got a much lower roof line. Center of gravity is going to be much better on an RS7 as opposed to something this big and this heavy. But I think for family practicality, this is probably the better car. I will say this, the steering's actually surprisingly good. It's fairly responsive. The rear end and the front end feel pretty connected. There's not a lot of wallowing about in the rear end. So I steer and the rear end and the front end are connected. Let's go into a fun little bend. See how this feels. Ooh, well, with that giant V8 slung over the front wheels, this doesn't handle a whole lot better than the RS6. And I think I should have tempered my expectations. I think this car is supremely cool. It looks awesome. But performance handling super station wagon, it's not. It doesn't handle that great. There's not that much body roll, but you feel the weight of the car going into every single turn. And that's kind of the funny thing is that the suspension's so firm that the car stays relatively flat, but it's heavy and you can feel that weight. 0 to 60 in the threes, quarter mile, 11.5, trap speed, 120 miles per hour. You'll probably be able to repeat that over and over and over and over again. This car, though, does have a very, very potent aftermarket community. I've seen these RS6s and the RSQ8s, RS7s making 700-800 horsepower. I probably would advise against that because I've also seen these cars blow and grenade in very unfashionable circumstances. So I wouldn't kind of push these engines too far, but I know that the community does exist, and I believe some of these tunes and some of these performance bits do come with warranties. So in the event that, let's say, your ECU causes an issue, the ECU manufacturer will cover the cost of the engine. Something to think about. So let's go into comfort mode over here quickly. We're going to go over speed bumps, because if you own a station wagon, chances are you've got speed bumps in your neighborhood, and that was 10 miles per hour. Not too bad. Do keep in mind also the rough ride. This is running on 22-inch wheels with like rubber band profile. Like, this is a car with a lot of sporty accents all throughout it, a lot of sporty equipment, so it does compromise the ride, but it looks freaking awesome. Like, I can't stress how cool this car looks driving down the road. And yeah, these speed bumps, even in comfort mode, you can feel them more so than I felt them in the Audi e-tron the other day. So something to keep in mind. It's not bad, but these 22s don't really help the quality of the ride. On the other hand, I believe 20s or 21s are the standard, and if you can spec one of these with that, you should consider it, especially if you live in an area with poor quality roads. So all in all, I find the Audi RS6 to be a pretty solid car. Wonderful interior, gorgeous looks. It's a little quiet, it handles all right, and obviously straight line performance is pretty solid, and if you wanted more for whatever reason, there's always the aftermarket approach. I'd say it's a pretty decent price point for a car of this caliber, of this nature, and down the line I would imagine that these cars will hold their value very, very well. So having said that, if you like cars like the Audi RS6, if you like German cars, please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.